Hello. It says I'm live. Was the third time the charm. Can I get a 5x5 in the chat, please? Oh, hello, Mr. Bearman. Welcome. Hello. You see me? You hear me now? You hear words come out of my face hole? So good to see you today. Happy Tuesday. No 5x5 from the chat. I'm just talking to myself. There it is. Alex Miller. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Bear from the internet. For all you new people, maybe you have just stumbled upon some guy in a hoodie in his home office talking about the news on the internet. If you have, welcome. So great to see you. Subscribe, ring the little bell icon, do all the YouTube things. You will note here that production quality is not our primary concern. Content quality is. And I say that because I'm very aware that the sun shining through my office window is creating some interesting visual effects at the moment. And I just want you to know that I'm aware of it, but don't care. Okay, cool. So I was doom scrolling X this morning, as one would do to maintain their existential crises. And I scrolled upon Mr. Ray Dalio. If you're not familiar with Ray Dalio, really rich guy, has done a lot of investment and investment banking and monetary policy stuff, business building throughout the course of his life. He's written many books, and he's also an atheist, which, hey, listen, to each their own. But and I bring that up because I've read Principles by Dalio, and Principles is a pretty good book as far as the concept of if you do enough things in life, it's whatever you're doing is just another one of these. There's only so many unique human experiences that we all have. He quantifies about 200 of them, but the way that he deals with these unique life experiences is through a set of principles. And it's interesting because his principles, while saying that he's a non-believer, are by and large fairly moral and ethical as derived from the Word of God. So Dalio this morning, assisting me in my ongoing existential crisis on X, had this write-up that he did, and I wanted to explore this with y'all from a preparedness standpoint with an eye towards preparedness, because I think there's some really interesting things in this little article. So you can find it on X if you're on X. You can also find it on Patreon. I just posted it to our Patreon page this morning. Note that I say our because it's the economic engine of the Bear Nation. I've noticed a lot of people have signed up for the free tier on Patreon. I put nothing out at the free tier. So if you're like, wow, Bear's very inactive on Patreon. Yes, that's correct. You have to be on one of the paid tiers in order to see all the posts. But I digress. So Dalio wrote, at this moment, a huge amount of attention is being justifiably paid to the announcement of tariffs and their very big impacts on markets and economies, while very little attention is being paid to the circumstances that caused them and the biggest disruptions that are likely still ahead. So that's interesting. This guy, by the way, has called a lot of the booms and busts, most of the booms and busts of the stock market as end countries. And so he knows a thing or two because he's seen a thing or two. Is he a reliable witness? Because I think that's what really matters here. Should I care what Dalio thinks? Well, indicator, I care enough about what Dalio thinks that we're going to make a show out of it this morning. You do you, boo. If you do not care what Dalio thinks, then this may not be the show for you. Continuing with what Dalio said. Don't get me wrong, while these tariff announcements are all very important developments and we all know that President Trump caused them, most people are losing sight of the underlying circumstances that got him elected president and brought these tariffs about. They are also mostly overlooking the vastly more important forces that are driving just about everything, including the tariffs. The far bigger, far more important thing to keep in mind is that we are seeing a classic breakdown of the major monetary, political, and geopolitical orders. Repeat. The far bigger, far more important thing to keep in mind is that we are seeing a classic breakdown of major monetary, political, and geopolitical orders. This sort of breakdown occurs only about once in a lifetime, but they have happened many times in history when similar unsustainable conditions were in place. So we'll pause there for a moment. You may note that my voice sounds very sultry this morning, and that's because I was honored over the last 2 days to scream at 15 students at Refuge Medical training for our essential responder class. And so I've been using my big boy voice the last couple of days, which is why it sounds like this today. Okay, bear. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Elevator Mechanic in the chat says, Dalio is a student of history, specifically pointing out what happens when the wealth gap is so large. 100%. 100%. Nolan. The lighting sucks where you're at. Nolan, if you're here to look at my face, you probably have not appropriately prioritized certain things in your life. Repeat my comment on production quality versus content quality. Production quality is not an interest of mine. It creates operational drag. It burns time. It does not diminish the content quality of the information that is coming out of my face hole. Okay. It's not a greasy spot on the lens. It's a ball of fire in the sky called the sun coming in through a window. And this is the last time we will discuss it this morning. Continuing with what Dalio has to say. More specifically, item number 1, the monetary economic order is breaking down because there's too much existing debt. The rates of adding to it are too fast, and existing capital markets and economies are supported by this unsustainably large debt. Unsustainably large debt. So first thing we could look at here. Number 1, the monetary economic order is breaking down. Impacts to us as civilians in 2025 America, I would say potentially significant, because whether we want to participate in the monetary order or not, we are all issued fiat currency, either in the form of rectangular green pieces of paper or ones and zeros on computers. Here's how many credits, here's how many tokens you have earned for running on the hamster wheel today. And we've seen an increasing devaluation of the US dollar, coupled with inflation, coupled with increasing costs, input costs, whether that's energy or labor or commodities or whatever, making everything by and large more expensive. And I don't think that's going to get better soon. I also understand that the credit card debt holdings in the United States of America right now are the largest that they have ever been. You can add in other forms of debt like that, like student loan debt, medical debt, and then housing. There's a handful of analysts and economists that are calling for another housing crash. I don't know if it'll be a crash or it'll be an adjustment, but we'll see. We'll see if that comes to fruition. All this to say, people may be earning more tokens, but each token is worth less, and it takes more tokens to navigate each individual day. So that's putting a squeeze on the average American household right now, which gets into my second point of debt is a big deal. And so if you are in a position where you are earning enough tokens or more than enough tokens and you have debt, you need to take some of those tokens and pay off your debt before things go topsy-turvy. I would love to see an actual jubilee. And again, this is a biblical concept. Once every 50 years, there's a release of debt, and it resets the economic stage for all participants. There's a proverb for this: the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. And so we are not called to be a nation of slaves. We are called to be a nation of kings and priests. That'll bring up the question of, yeah, but Bear, how do I get a property? How do I get a house without taking a mortgage? I don't have that money. I don't have that much money. I can't. I can't, which I get it. Um, the house that I'm sitting in, we built, cost almost 3 times as much as the property we bought for the house to go on, which when we bought the property had 2 houses and 3 wells and creeks and streams and a barn and all those things, right? And we were blessed to be able to acquire this piece of property at a very low relative cost, not because of any sweetheart deals or anything. Just the Father was looking out for us. Fast forward 7 years when we build the house that I'm sitting in now, because the old house was literally falling apart. And I have a duty and responsibility to provide a covering to my wife and children, literal and figurative. But the house was literally falling apart. We built this house that we're in right now. And this house that we're in right now in 2024 dollars was $427,000. That's absurd. That's absurd. I don't have $427,000. But we'd been saving our tokens, and we put 100,000 down on the house, and we've paid a little bit more than 50 in addition in the last year. So 150 of that 427 has already gone away. And right now, the goal is to take any extra tokens we have and pay that remainder back down, that remaining 275 back down to zero as quickly as possible, because I don't like debt. And we were debt free for the last 10 years until we built this house. And the cool thing about being debt free is 100% of your revenue goes where you want it to go. What 100% of your revenue that's left over after the government takes half goes where you want it to go. But now, being in the position that we're in, I didn't have 427. I got to build a house though. All right, well, we're going to do the thing. I don't like it, but we're going to do the thing. And so this is me telling you, having been both debt free for a decade and now having 275 left on a house, any additional tokens you have, I think you should throw towards making that debt go away, because I don't believe we're going to get a jubilee. I don't believe we're going to get a reset of all debts per the Bible, which interestingly allows for continued high valuation of the currency. And it also combats things like usury, where disadvantaged people can't be taken advantage of by the lender. And if they are, it's a 50-year reset. So you don't end up with generational debt, and you don't end up with generational wealth due to taking advantage of others. There's a lot of wisdom in the Bible. I don't think that's going to happen. I see zero indicators that make me think that we're going to get a jubilee. So instead, I believe we're going to get a monetary reset that's going to be in the best interest of the lender, not the borrower. And so the debt that you currently have may grow, even potentially exponentially, especially if it's valued in US dollars, and US dollars aren't what we use as tokens anymore going forward. All right, that's my commentary on that. Continuing, Mr. Dalio. The debt is unsustainable because of the large imbalance between A, debtor borrowers who owe too much debt and are taking on too much debt because they are hooked on debt to finance their excesses, e.g., the United States, and B, lender creditors like China who already hold too much of the debt and are hooked on selling their goods to the borrower's debtors like the United States to sustain their economies. There are big pressures for these imbalances to be corrected one way or another, and doing so will change the monetary order in major ways. For example, it is obviously incongruous to have both large trade imbalances and large capital imbalances in a deglobalizing world in which the major players can't trust that the other major players won't cut them off from items that they need, which is an American worry, or pay the money that they are owed, which is a Chinese worry. This is a result of these parties being in a type of war in which self-sufficiency is of paramount importance. So we could start there. What we're seeing is a facet of economic warfare with the debt and revenue between the United States and China. We've known this for a while. This is gray zone activity, if you want to call it that. We're frenemies, and we've been frenemies with China for a hot minute. This is not hot war. This is not guns and tanks and bombs and planes yet. However, historically speaking, situations like this economically oftentimes try to be resolved politically. And if they can't be resolved politically, we then get warfare, which is politics by another means. And so, looking at the history, modern history of the world over the last even 250 years, you could go way further back and go back to Roman times, go back to antiquity. Once the money falls apart, the trade falls apart. Once the trade falls apart, relations falls apart. Once relations fall apart, you get the othering. Okay, those people over there. Well, we used to be friends with them. Yeah, but we're not anymore. The othering. And we're going to go to war against them, especially if there's debts to settle. Because the renegotiation of that debt after you've been defeated, you don't have a leg to stand on now. Megan says in the chat, need coffee, want tacos. I like the way you live your life, Megan. I like the way you live your life based upon that sentence alone. And I appreciate the brevity. So, wars and rumors of wars. But this is warfare between the United States and China. It's just not the type of warfare that most people are familiar with. Remember, China owns a significant portion of the United States debt. They also own significant portions of the land in the United States of America and fertile food-producing land. And that's been an ongoing issue with the Chinese, is that their population exceeds their ability to feed it with their depleted soil and their climate. And so China, in many ways, imports a lot of food. China literally fishes the oceans to the point where not a single fish remains in certain swaths of ocean. And that's been a point of contention in the South China Sea with other Southeast Asian nations, that Chinese fishing vessels will come in, operating in areas that they're not supposed to be operating in, and will catch literally all of the fish. Doesn't matter what they're not fishing for a certain species. They're just fishing, and they will catch all the fish and leave. I forget the stats, but it's something like 400 billion tons of fish a year, just fish that China goes through. But they've also grossly overinflated their population numbers. This is according to Peter Peter Z, that guy. PZ believes that China says that they have approximately 1.4 billion people, but the numbers are more accurately somewhere between 700 million and a billion people. And the numbers that they overreported were like the 25 to 45 age bracket, wildly overreported, and then new births, children. And so that they are in a demographic death spiral, and they don't have the producer / consumer base that 25 to 45-year-old individuals represent. The economically highly productive people in society, they don't have those people, which makes them even more dependent on nations like us, the United States of America, to buy their cheap Chinese wares, which as of today, I don't even know what the current tariffs on China are right now. It was 20%, then another 34%, which made it 54%. And then they increased their retaliatory tariffs rather than reciprocal tariffs, retaliatory tariffs, And then Trump said, that's cute. Here's another 50%. And last I heard, China was at 104% tariff, which is the companies in China are not going to absorb 100% increase. It's like going from $100 to $200. Okay. They're not going to absorb another, 100%, 104% increase on their product. And so there's a couple ways this can go down. Either the manufacturer, the producer of the product, eats the additional cost as part of the import process, or the importer passes those costs on to the retailer. Walmart, Kmart, does Kmart even exist anymore? Target, etc. And then when you go to the grocery store or whatever, you got to go buy some stuff. You go buy some stuff, and instead of that stuff being $100, it's $200. And that additional 104%, and this is my current issue with the tariffs, is passed to the federal government. It's not passed to y'all. And so unless there's a mechanism of recompense for the federal government back to its constituency, us, the people, either you're going to tax me less or you're going to disperse those funds to the American Sovereign Wealth Fund, then it really doesn't help people who don't have enough tokens right now as it is. If you already don't have enough tokens and something that used to cost you 1 token now costs you 2 tokens, and nobody's giving me any more tokens, that doesn't help me at all. It doesn't help you at all. And I understand that the tariffs are part of a more long-term strategy, and what we're seeing is the immediate effects of such tariffs right now. But unless we start, and until we start implementing the remainder of that strategy, it's putting a significant squeeze on individuals as well as the stock market, which is record lows at last I checked. But who knows? It's all over the place. Trump's all over the place. It's a very challenging time to keep abreast of all the news, unless it's literally your full-time job to sit with your existential crisis rectangle in your lap and scream at an LED screen all day. And I don't have the time or the interest for that. Continuing with Dalio. Anyone who has studied history knows that such risks under such circumstances have repeatedly led to the same sorts of problems we're seeing now. So the old monetary economic order in which countries like China manufacture inexpensively, sell to Americans, and acquire American debt assets, and Americans borrow money from countries like China to make those purchases and build up huge debt liabilities, will have to change. These obviously unsustainable circumstances are made even more so by the fact that they have led to American manufacturing deteriorating, which both hollows out middle-class jobs in the U.S. and requires America to import needed items from a country that is increasingly seen as an enemy. I think that's something that people don't understand as well when it comes to American manufacturing. It's very easy to say, well, then just buy American. But as somebody who manufactures in America, what most people don't realize is that the manufacturing capacity in America does not exist nearly to the degree that it used to pre-NAFTA. It's not here. And we're not just talking about value-added workshops that take raw commodities and turn them into stuff. We're talking about the production of the raw commodities themselves in many cases. And so having the inputs don't exist, produced domestically, to then put into a value-added workshop, factory, assembly plant, whatever, which also don't exist, as well as the labor to work in these capacities, because you could call it unskilled labor, but that would be offensive to those laborers, because the people in my sew shop that make this are very skilled. It's technically unskilled labor. They don't have PhDs, but they don't need PhDs to make the best first aid kits on planet Earth. This is skilled labor. They're better at this than I am. Okay. And there's only so many of those people on planet Earth. There's only so many iron workers. You can call them unskilled labor, but man, I really want the people who are bolting our steel girders together and welding the bolt plates on. I really want them to have skill in the trades. Do you want a skilled or an unskilled electrician? Right. Well, that's skilled labor, Bear, but you see my point. You don't build tradespeople immediately. It takes time. It takes experience in order for it to be done well. And so the labor aspect here, um, there's not enough people who are currently trained and capable to perform those roles in the country. And I haven't seen a big push as of yet, an initiative to create more of those people, understanding that the idea here is if we support industry, then industry will necessarily bring more people in, train more people up, and they will make the people that they need for that industry. 100%. But we get back to the issue of tokens. The cost to operate in any industry right now is up significantly. So there's a monetary squeeze all the way around for the employer, the employee, for the country, for the world. And it's going to take an investment of capital at all levels to be able to achieve an actual critical mass of American manufacturing to decouple from China, Southeast Asia, and other parts of the world. And right now, that investment hasn't been made by the federal government. And I would submit that it's not the federal government's job to do that anyway. And that investment can't be made by and large by industry because industry doesn't have any tokens either. And so that contributes to the potential for a collapse here because it's easy to say, well, we should just make it here. It's Dunning-Kruger effect. The less you know about something, the easier it seems to be, the more simple it seems to be. The more you know about something, the more complicated and intricate it becomes. And as somebody in that space that makes things in America, it's highly complicated. So, yeah, it's a shortage of tokens. Yet again, we see a shortage of tokens. Let's continue with Dalio here. It should also be obvious that the U.S. government debt level and the rate at which the government debt is being added to is unsustainable. Clearly, the monetary order will have to change in big disruptive ways. Clearly, the monetary order will have to change in big disruptive ways to reduce all these imbalances and excesses, and we are in the early part of the process of it changing. There are huge capital market implications to this that have huge economic implications, which I will delve into at another time. Thanks, Ray. There's a lot of hope that we will return to a gold standard. I, for one, are one of those hopeful people. I don't, however, think that it's likely. I think it's possible, maybe even plausible, but it's low confidence. I don't think it's likely that we return to a gold standard. I think we're much more likely to see something like some type of blockchain government currency, digital dollarization. And there's a lot of people that freak out about digital dollarization without realizing that if you have a debit card, you've had digital dollars for a long time. They've been digital for a long time. And if we're going to look at some type of blockchain currency as a federal currency, mandated fiat currency in the United States of America, while I don't like that from a preparedness standpoint, because I want to be able to put my hands on it. If you can't touch it, it's not yours. Okay. And we understand that about everything else in life. Like my neighbor's truck is not my truck. It's his truck. Okay. It might as well not exist. If I can't touch it, it's not mine. For some reason, we've been indoctrinated since approximately 1913 to believe that it isn't that way with money. Cool. I think money should make noise when you drop it. I don't think that we will end up back on the gold standard. And if we do end up on a federal blockchain, there's something to be said that our current system of fiat is 27 trillion US dollars in circulation. There's no cap, single source provider, and 25% of the inventory has been produced in the last 5 years. Well, if you were to take blockchain metrics and apply that to the US dollar fails. It's a meme coin. Okay, that's reasonable. And so one could argue that if we were to have some type of blockchain federal currency and it was done right, that it could be even better than the current system of fiat that we have. My problem with that is, again, is if I can't touch it, it's not mine, which clearly indicates whose money it actually is. Right? They could touch it; it's theirs. But also, B, when was the last time the federal government did something right, the right way, with all the appropriate gravitas and nuance? And I'm having a hard time coming up with an answer to that question. I don't know. I can't think of one. So, to a certain extent, we already trust these people that don't have our best interests at heart to issue us fiat. And so, would it be any different with blockchain? My concern would be is it would issue them even more control with even less transparency, because they control all the computers. If you think you're going to have a blockchain terminal where you can look at USD coin today, I don't know that they're going to allow that to happen, because that puts control back in your hands over fiscal policy, monetary policy. And I don't think that they seek that. So I don't think we're going to get a jubilee. I don't think we're going back to the gold standard. We might end up with some kind of government meme coin. We'll see. But a government meme coin is no more unreal than our current system of fiat, just so we're all on the same page. Glimmer of hope. There were talks early on about auditing the Federal Reserve, and I don't know if that's going to happen, but also inspecting Fort Knox. And that's led to all kinds of conjecture and opinion. Everybody knows the gold hasn't been there since insert date here. Okay, cool. Well, maybe the reason, just a maybe, and I have no intelligence whatsoever to suggest this. It's just a thought, but maybe they did go have a look and there's no gold there, or there's far less gold than there's supposed to be, or they're all lead bricks that have been painted to look like gold. Who knows? Things are not on the up and up. Imagine that. Federal government gets involved. Things are not on the up and up. So in the interim space between when it was first announced that Fort Knox would be inspected and now, and whenever they decide to allow an inspection of Fort Knox, they're buying up gold left and right and repatriating it back to Fort Knox. That'd be interesting. There was a few days ago a $20 billion purchase of gold that sent gold up from about 3,000 an ounce to about 3,200 an ounce, like in a moment. There's also one of the things that's happening economically right now is China is buying up silver at massive rates. A couple of reasons. Number one, 25% of all silver that's produced per annum every year goes into solar panels and solar panel infrastructure. So there's a manufacturing application for silver that's not necessarily shared by gold. So there's real use cases for silver outside of money. So China's buying up silver for that reason, but also because silver's due for a correction. Silver historically trades between 1/7 and 1/10 what gold trades for. And it's currently trading at about 1/100th of what gold's traded at. So you could see silver going from 33, 35 an ounce to 350 an ounce, maybe. If that happens, I think that'll be market effects, not the federal government. Although I would, again, repeat, be very happy to have the US dollar backed by gold and silver again. The only problem with that is every president who has tried that has gotten shot. Lincoln, JFK, Reagan. So we'll see. We'll see. Continuing with what Dalio has to say on the matter. Point number two, the domestic political order is breaking down due to huge gaps in people's education levels, opportunity levels, productivity levels, income and wealth levels, and values. And because of the ineffectiveness of the existing political order to fix things, these conditions are manifested in win-at-all-cost fights between populists of the right and populists of the left over which side will have the power and control to run things. This is leading to democracies breaking down because democracies require compromise and adherence to the rule of law. And history has shown that both break down at times like these that we are now in. History also shows that strong autocratic leaders emerge as classic democracy and classic rule of law are removed as barriers to autocratic leadership. Obviously, the current unstable political situation will be affected by the other four forces I'm referring to here, e.g., problems in the stock market and economy will likely create political and geopolitical problems. Yes. So the breakdown of the function of American society due to both the populace and the representatives of the populace in government. That's maybe the most concerning point that Dalio makes because it points towards what in the prepper sphere would be termed collapse. And there's partial and total collapses. I would submit that neither of those things are truly good for anyone, whether you're prepared or not. Because again, I don't think we're going to get a righteous biblical reset at any point. I see zero indicators from any of our air quote leadership that they're going to flip the Bible open, read it, and go, hey guys, we should do this. I don't see that happening anytime soon. And if you've read Kings and Chronicles, I know there's some challenging names and words in there, but if you read Kings and Chronicles, it's full of stories of leadership that did not adhere to biblical principles, and their people suffered greatly for it. One could argue that's currently happening right now, but the extent to which we are suffering is debatable. I think things are less than ideal right now, but I have warm coffee. I got a comfy hoodie on. I'm sitting in my own house using internet that is operating at the speed of light on a strand of glass 1/10 the diameter of a human hair that can transmit anywhere around the world when I feel like it. That's not really suffering. That's not really oppression. So the degree to which we can fall is great. It is significant. We also have the effect of Sir John Glubb, The Fate of Empires. 250-year cycles for empires, give or take. All right, let's do some quick math. Everybody want to do some quick math with me? 2025 minus 1776 equals 249. Now, we could argue when the American experiment truly began. Was it in 1776 or 1791, or was it in 1865 we had a reset? Sure. We could, math, it burns Maya Rivka. We could argue all those things. But the math be mathin', yo. That's a technical term, comes out of the south side of Chicago. The numbers add up that we are on the cusp, we are due for an empiric reset at some point. Now, Rome as an empire, lasted 750 years. And even though there is no longer a Roman Empire, there are still Romans. You can go to Rome today and get yourself some nice pasta, maybe a tomato, some good olive oil. You go sunbathing nude on the beach if you want. They're into that over there. Rome is still here. The Roman Empire is not. But during that 750-year span of the Roman Empire, there were three distinct phases of it, each approximately 250 years. And so the American experiment the reset that happened there from British supremacy, the British world empire, leading into the American world empire. And make no mistake, man, we've got the world's largest military by far, the world's largest economy by far. We got our fingers in everybody else's pie all around the globe. Okay, we are the American empire. And you could get into the implications of that. The Babylonian eagle and the Roman eagle and the American eagle. And if you look at our coinage throughout the last 2,000, 2,500 years, they're all pretty similar. Let's put a dude's head on one side and an eagle on the other. Tracking. Okay. The American empire, just chronologically, is due for a reset. And I believe in part what Trump is trying to do is navigate that reset so that we come out the other side reinforcing conservative, air quote, principles, fiscal responsibility, air quote, although I'm unimpressed by this current Congress and their spending limits, regardless of the Doge work that has been done. But that as this reset happens, and there's tends to be purges amidst resets. I don't think Trump wants his MAGA Americans purged during the reset, and that the people and therefore ideologies that remain after the reset are conducive to his way of thinking, not the opposition party's way of thinking. And we can also, and have debated, the merits of an air quote opposition party, because I think if you dig deep enough, they're two wings of the same bird, the left and the right. But I digress. This collapse, partial or total collapse, when you begin to fold in the societal issues that arise from that, we don't want to have a let them eat cake moment where the populace doesn't have enough tokens to afford food. Weimar Republic, you need a wheelbarrow full of Deutschmarks in order, or yeah, they were Deutschmarks at the time, they weren't Reichsmarks. You need a wheelbarrow full of cash to go buy a loaf of bread. And so I bring this up from a preparedness standpoint because I don't want to get in the bread line. I want to be the bread line. And so right now, while you still have tokens, to the extent you have any tokens, get wheat. Know how to make bread from wheat. You only need a handful of things to make bread. Give us this day our daily bread. You need wheat and or flour. You need water. You need leaven, maybe, if you're making leavened bread. Be that sourdough starter, yeast, or bulk packaged yeast, or chemical leaveners, baking soda, baking powder, whatever. So water, flour, some type of leavening agent if you're into that, oil, salt, 4 to 5 ingredients, and heat, and a way to apply heat. Be that a solar oven or a wood stove or a natural gas stove or propane with a giant propane tank or a small propane tank or wood fire or whatever. Okay, that's what you need to make bread. And, for some of us who observe biblical feasts as believers in Messiah, we're coming up on a period of time where we will be making lots of unleavened bread. And it's awesome. But when your ability to make bread or buy bread is hindered by your lack of tokens, it only takes a handful of missed meals before Bubba and his buddies in their pickup trucks and their rifles and shotguns have had enough. And that poses a potentially significant threat from a security standpoint to most of the population. 80% of the world's population lives within 50 miles of the coastline. Okay, if you look at a map of the United States of America, all of our major cities are within 50 miles of a coastline. Major cities are where most of the people are. There are tier 2, tier 3 cities, interior, Oklahoma City, St. Louis, Denver, et cetera, et cetera. But from a population standpoint, you compare Denver to LA, Denver to New York City, or Miami, or Houston. Oh my gosh, Houston, right? Houston just keeps going. You see my point? So there's very large population density in areas that are net consumers of resources, not net producers of resources. And if the tokens and the bread run out, there will be riots. People will lose their ever-loving minds, which require autocratic force to suppress during a period of time when we have a changing of the guard from Empire 1.0, 250-year cycle, into Empire 2.0, where there's maybe a little bit more permission during this phase to be a little bit more heavy-handed with the perceived opposition, all of which is a population density problem. And so I would solve the population density problem while I still have tokens to do so, aka strategically relocate. And regardless of where you're located, bread. Can you make bread? Can you feed the people that the Father has given you to steward, aka your family? And if the answer to that's no, or I hope so, we have work to do as a community. Continuing with Dalio here. Don't worry, boys and girls, we're getting near the end. I like to try and keep these about an hour, maybe 75 minutes. It depends on the day. Point 3. The international geopolitical world order is breaking down because the era of one dominant power, the United States, that dictates the order that other countries follow is over. The international geopolitical world order is breaking down because the era of one dominant power, the United States, that dictates the order that other countries follow is over. The multilateral cooperative world order the U.S. led is being replaced by a unilateral power rules approach. In this new order, the U.S. is still the largest power in the world and is shifting to a unilateral America First asterisk approach. You guys know about the asterisk. I'm sure you guys know about the asterisk. It's fine. America first, unless you're a certain Middle Eastern country the size of New Jersey. We are now seeing that manifest in the U.S.-led trade war, geopolitical war, technological war, and in some cases, military wars. We are now seeing that manifested in the U.S.-led trade war, that's war 1, geopolitical war 2, technology war 3, and in some cases, military wars 4. So conflict, there are many conflicts that do not rise to the threshold of use of force. But that does not mean that they're not conflicts. And it doesn't mean that those conflicts don't have direct and indirect impacts on our daily lives. We tend to pay attention to, oh no, guns and tanks and bombs and planes, as we should. But we oftentimes don't pay attention to all these other conflicts that are operating generally below the threshold of detection, but are having significant impacts to our daily life. And again, my primary touch point on this is tokens. Not just my tokens, your tokens, everybody's tokens, the flow of tokens, the volume of tokens, the supply of tokens, the value of tokens. It's tokens because tokens is what the world has decided is how we're going to quantify the economic output of individuals, then organizations, and then conglomerations, and then countries, and then the world. Okay, well, if tokens is going to be the metric that they're going to use, I'll use it too. So I'm fairly interested in the value and circulation of tokens. And what I'm seeing currently is that the tokens aren't worth as much as they used to be. They're not moving nearly as fast as they used to be. There's a lot of instability in the tokens, and there's not as many tokens as there used to be. So the tokens are down. Well, that's a freaking indicator, man. That's a big deal because while we monitor that at a global level, and then a country level, and then a conglomerate level, and then a company level. It really manifests itself at an individual level, at a household level. Going back to the earlier point of, if a household doesn't have enough tokens coming in, and that household can't feed itself, clothe itself, provide for itself, protect itself, that household will act in its own best interest, one way or another. And if they act violently in its own perceived best interest, you do not want to be in a location where they have the ability to act violently upon you. And push turns to shove, household or group of households acts violently. You see all these little coalitions, they're already forming. Which is why you need your own little coalition, your own mutual assistance group. But you see all these little coalitions that are forming. As the coalition tries to poke the beast will poke back, and the beast is much more powerful. Who can stand against the beast? Right? One swipe of one claw from the beast, and entire neighborhoods are wiped out. So probably don't be where that is, and make sure you're producing enough tokens for your house and you have enough bread for your house. Point 4. Acts of nature, droughts, floods, and pandemics are increasingly disruptive. I saw just a little blip on the radar the other day that Bill Gates was saying that there's another flu-like virus pandemic coming. And just a moment of commentary on this. My gut reaction is, not playing that game again. I saw season 1 of that, and I do not want to watch season 2. I'm not interested. No, thank you. Not doing it. But there's a lot of conjecture and opinion, and there's some value to this conjecture and opinion, that season 2 of worldwide flu pandemic will actually be the one that's deadly. And that's how they're going to get all of us, or whatever. That's how they're going to get everybody, all the non-compliant people. This one will actually be deadly. And if you don't comply, you'll actually die. So the first one was totally a false flag operation, in large part psyops, and in large part used to filter through certain subsets of the population that had 3 or more comorbidities, regardless of country of origin or mechanism of transfer or gain of function, or all the trillions of dollars in media propaganda that was spent in order to brainwash the population, regardless of all of that. Okay. The first one wasn't that bad, but the second one is actually going to be that bad. And if you don't play along with what their narratives are, you will die. Diabolical. Yes, diabolical. Because like I said, I'm convinced none of these world leaders are cracking their Bible open to see what it says so that they understand how to govern appropriately. So things you might consider, if that's true, if it's true that the whole world is going to catch the flu again, that's coming, and is Bill Gates a reliable source? Depends on your worldview. Disinfectants, gloves, low population density areas, bleach. We did a thing during the first go round, season 1. We got a pump sprayer. We filled it with diluted bleach, and when UPS or the Postal Service or whoever would drop packages at our gate, which was closed because the world's ending, we would take the pump sprayer and spray all the packages down with bleach and let them sit in the sunshine for a day or 2. And a whole bunch of our packages got rained on, and I don't care. Because we thought this was the Black Plague early on. Nobody knew, right? We didn't know. We thought 1 in 3 people was going to die from this thing. And so we just sprayed it down with bleach. And then a day or 2 later, then we'd bring them in and open them up. Okay. So, and sunshine is literally the best disinfectant. Something to think about. So having a disinfectant protocol and having the things that you need to have on hand in order to be able to do that, you might think about that. Uh, Gloves, nitrile gloves, relatively inexpensive, highly recommended. Disinfectants, bleach, hydrogen peroxide, rubbing alcohol, vodka, all those things. So we tired, boss. I know it, Nick. I know it. I'll get to the rest of it. And then as far as droughts and floods are concerned, there's a whole conversation going on about weather modification in Congress trying to pass some laws. Been done on the state level, banning weather modification in I think 17 states at this point. But there's talk about at the federal level banning weather modification. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. I think there's let's look at both sides of the conversation here. On the one hand, yeah, we responded to Hurricane Helene, where there was a hurricane in the Appalachian Mountains. Something be fishy here, right? Add in NextRad radar to cloud seeding and weather modification, and things get super interesting. Not a fan of that. I wonder, though, and I'm not saying I believe this to be true, but it's an interesting thought. We're seeing increased solar activity. At the same time, we're getting into Dr. Ben Davidson stuff here, Space Weather News, suspicious observers. At the same time that we know we're having increasing rates of magnetic excursion where the North Pole is moving at a significant rate. And there's a major concern about solar kill shot, where coronal mass ejection, like the Carrington event or greater, hits the United States or the world. And we are now so much more digitized than we were in 1889 when the Carrington event happened. Everything runs on electrons now. There might be something to say of having the ability to put more stuff in the upper atmosphere to limit the uptake of the energy from the sun if the sun issues a solar kill shot. That would require me to believe that our government has our best interest at heart. And I'm not convinced that they do, but it does at least maybe give us something to think about. And finally, point 5 from Dalio here. Oh, I hit the wrong button. She gone, baby. She gone. I'll scroll over here to Patreon where I posted this. Boo. Amazing changes in technology such as AI will be highly impactful to all aspects of life, including the money, debt, economic order, the political order, and the international order, by affecting interactions between countries economically and militarily, and the costs of acts of nature. Changes in these forces and how they are affecting each other is what we should be focusing on. Yeah, I agree with that. So Dalio's whole point to this is, hey, the tariffs are important, but they're not the most important thing. They're just part of a much larger, super important thing. Tracking, agree. But the fragility of human existence right now is so significant that one hiccup can lead to cascading effects that allow for myriad, hundreds of thousands, millions of American households to end up in a very bad place. And the government should not be sustaining the life of its citizenry. That's not the government's job. But the government at this point is by and large at that scale, the only entity that could. So without some radical change in the way we conduct ourselves as a government in the United States of America, returning power and tokens to the people, um, things could get really, 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 really sideways. And it seems to me, I don't know this to be true, but it seems to me that large swaths of the preparedness community have taken their foot off of the accelerator because Donald J. Trump was reelected to the 47th president of the United States of America. Oh, we can breathe a sigh of relief. The indicators don't point in that direction. That is illogical based upon all of the data coming in domestically and from around the world. We're not in a position to where we can coast. We put it on cruise control. And that's exacerbated by the value of tokens and the lack of tokens economically. I get it. So if you still have some tokens, do the things. If you don't have some tokens, do the things. Preparedness doesn't have to be expensive, by the way. There are certainly some things that cost money, but not all of it costs money. And one of the best things you can do is go outside and exercise your skill set. Just go learn. I mean, fire making can be free with the right materials. It can be 99 cents with a Bic lighter until you learn how to use the right materials to make a fire for free. You don't need all the fancy, woodsman outdoorsy gear stuff in order to learn how to make a fire. And fire can literally save your life, cook food on it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The class that I was teaching yesterday, I gave them a little take-home exercise. So I'll share this with you as well. I've said this before on camera, but we've done pushing 8,000 videos and live streams to this point. So maybe you didn't hear it, or maybe you need a reminder. Get your mutual assistance group together. Okay, have your weekly, monthly meeting, whatever, and get a chicken or maybe a few chickens, depending on how many people you have. Preferably a live one if you have people who have live chickens. If it's a live chicken, slaughter it and then butcher it. Defeather it, gut it. Now we have a chicken. Now we have food. We've gone from animal to food. That in of itself is its own lesson right there. Then take a stabby thing, a knife, a spear, a machete, or whatever. If you want to, shoot a hole in it. Hear me out. And then get out your gauze. And then wound pack that. Put your gloves on, because nobody likes to touch raw chicken, right? So we understand with raw chicken, like, oh, I shouldn't touch that. So it's a good impetus to have gloves on, because human blood is a vector for disease. So I don't really want your blood on me or in me. Okay, so put your gloves on, then wound pack that thing. Have everybody in, Chuck Roast works too. Agreed, Matt Bayer. Have everybody wound pack it. Now we had a class on wound packing. Then after that's done, wash the thing off. Everybody deglove, wash your hands, season it, build a fire. So this is lesson 3. Build a fire, and a fire to cook food on, not a rager, but build a fire. And then lesson 4, cook the chicken or the chuck roast or whatever over that fire. So we have slaughtering and butchering, wound packing, fire making, and food preparation, all little blocks of instruction in about 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours for your group. And all that is preparedness minded. It's all relative. And so if you don't have something to do with your group, whatever your group might be, whether it's your church small group or it's your militia or whatever it might be, give that one a go. Let me know how it works for you. Oof, that's the show for today. Of course, the show is brought to you by the creator of the universe, Yahuwah, our Elohim, Yod He Vav He, the Lord our God. It's brought by RefugeMedical.com, for whom I'm the founder and CEO. and by the wonderful people on Patreon that are the economic engine of the Bear Nation, which is where all the exclusive content lives. There are links to all that stuff down in the description. Grindstone Ministries, which is our disaster relief ministry, is on deployment again now. We just got back from Mississippi last week, and as of yesterday, they are in Selmer, Tennessee. Selmer, significant damage done from an EF4 tornado in Selmer, Tennessee, about an hour east of Memphis, Tennessee. And Grindstone needs your continued support, your continued prayer. And when I say support, what do I mean quantifiably? Number one, please keep all of my men and women in prayer, okay? Because they are taking time out of their normal life to come and volunteer their time to be the hands and feet of the Most High and love their neighbor as themselves. So keep them in prayer and pray for the people of the community, that there would be restoration and healing and a deepening of relationship between those community members and the Creator. And Grindstone needs volunteers. We need people so that we can be the hands and feet. We need the equipment to stay up. Well, one of my KPIs, key performance indicators for Grindstone, is how much stuff did we break today? Because you can't break it if you're not using it, right? And the Father didn't give it to us to not use it. He gave it to us to use it. And disaster relief is high impact, high utilization. We break stuff. So pray the equipment stays up, that the saws run, the heavy equipment runs, everybody's safe. We need people, operators and saw hands and logistics personnel and cooks and cleaners. And, if you have a ministerial background to pray with people and consult with people, we need people. And so you can reach out go to grindstoneministries.com, and then there will be a Amazon wish list for Grindstone of things that those who are deployed need and that the community needs. So keep your eyes out for that. And definitely, please sign up for the Grindstone email blast. We don't sell your emails to anybody else. We're not marketing to you. It's just how we communicate with you. Hey, we're deploying. We need these kinds of people, these kinds of trucks. Here's the Amazon list. Please share that out, et cetera, et cetera. So the Grindstone email list, as well as socials, YouTube and Facebook and Instagram, all of those are touch points for communication, to communicate what the community that we are serving needs in the process of being the hands and feet of the Most High. And then monetary donations, if the Spirit moves you and you want to make a non-taxable donation, a tax-advantaged donation to Grindstone Ministries, you can do that at grindstoneministries.com. And our income rate and our burn rate is the same. We are building the kingdom, not our bank account. I'll just put it that way. And so there's a phrase that on our last deployment in Mississippi, I was teaching the hands, and it's Tikkun HaOlam, Hebrew, which means to repair the world. And that's what Grindstone does. We repair, put it back together again. And specifically, our purview is we are like surgeons. Gift registry, Holly. Yes, thank you for correcting my nomenclature. It's not a wish list, it's a gift registry. Sure. We are like surgeons. You got something bad in you, and I need you to trust me enough to let me come in here, open you up, and cut the bad stuff out so that you can get sewn back together and begin the healing process. And what Grindstone does is relief, not recovery. disaster relief. We are there in the immediacy for search and rescue, med calls, logistics, debris removal, communications. I will clean your destroyed house off of your slab and cut all of your trees up and get them hauled out of here and grade the place and get all the debris out of the dirt so that you can begin to rebuild again. Because there are others who are better equipped, better skilled for the rebuilding process. That's not our gifting. The rebuilding process is long-term recovery. The relief process, cutting the bad stuff out so you can begin to heal, there's no one that's as good at that as Grindstone Ministries that I'm aware of. And that's not ego or hubris. It's a fact. We are on our 50th deployment right now. 5-0. 5-0 since 2019. So, grindstoneministries.com if the spirit moves you. At Refuge, we have the Radio Made Easy class with Evan coming up. Evan from Radio Made Easy. That class will be at the Refuge HQ in Spiro, Oklahoma. Highly recommended. Amazing radio class. You can go check that out. Go to refugemedical.com. Click the training tab up top, and you'll find that class as well as other classes that are coming up. We also have coming the end of May, I'm going to be teaching our 4-hour block of instruction digitally. It's the first time we've ever done this. So our responder level 1 class, which is normally several $100s in person, will be $99 digitally. And you can watch along, play along at home or your church or your work or your family or your community or whatever. You can have a watch party. And that's coming up May 30th. And you can find that on the training tab as well. Now that $99 value training you will get for free during the month of April on all orders that are $299 or more. You will also get for free on orders $299 or more the Boogie. The Boogie is back. It's a little tiny baby first aid kit. It's perfect for a purse or a glove box or a backpack. It's about a $30 value, and it's an awesome little kit. The last time we ran Boogies, we ran, I think, 300 of them, and they were gone in 2 days. And so the Boogie is back, and you can get one for free as well as the 4-hour digital block of instruction, which is happening on May 30th on all orders $299 and up. And the travel fac is in stock. And as always, we make everything in America. We guarantee it forever. If you break this, I'll replace it at no cost to you. And if you use the contents of this kit to save someone's life, like 143 other customers have, I'll replace the contents at no cost to you. And that's the travel fac that mounts on your headrest in your vehicle so that you have it when you need it. Wherever you go, it goes with you. So, thank you to all the students who came yesterday. It was an honor to teach you. I enjoyed myself. I hope that you got some value out of the class. We had one student at the end of the class yesterday said, he said, "Hey, I have a confession." Like, okay, what's up? He said, "I just completed in the last year my NAEMT, National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians." And he said, "I knew from getting registered as an EMT, the practical application of all this information, I knew that I knew it from the book, but I didn't know how to actually do it. And that's why I signed up for this class." And he said, "I have learned more in 2 days at Refuge training than I learned in a year taking my NAEMT." And he's like, "Thank you so much. This was an incredible class." Well, brother, it was an honor to serve you. And that individual he's the safety guy for a company in the oil and gas industry. And that's really important because those guys and girls are hours from real help. And so you got to know your stuff. So with that, let's talk to Dad. Good morning, Father Yahuwah. Father, thank you for allowing us to wake up this morning. Father, thank you for the myriad blessings that we take for granted every day. Thank you for providing everything that we need and most of what we want. Thank you for tolerating us in our mistrust, distrust, our temper tantrums, and for being a good dad, and for loving your kiddos, inexplicably loving your kiddos. Father, thank you for making a way for us to come home again. By the blood of your Son, that you would welcome us home again. Thank you for teaching us how to walk with your word and your word made flesh, that we could conduct ourselves in a way to the best of our ability that puts a smile on your face. Father, yeah, I know I have brothers and sisters out there right now that are going through some stuff. And so, Father, I pray that you'd make it abundantly clear to them that they are not going through it alone, that you are there with them, and you are sovereign over all things. Father, I ask that you would continue to fix their hearts, fix our hearts, that we would know you and trust you and allow you to be sovereign over our lives. Father, thank you for this daily bread that I know that you're already giving us without us even having to ask. Father, please heal those that need to be healed. Please provide for those that need to be provided for. Comfort those that need to be comforted. And Father, pour out your Spirit on those who are ready to accept it for wisdom and discernment. Father, please give us strength and power and authority in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, that we might be your hands and feet, that we could serve you and serve your kingdom and be honored in the doing of it. And Father, please give us peace that surpasses all understanding, that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. Father Yahuwah, if there's anything within the sound of my voice that is not of you, we come together in agreement and rebuke it in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach and command it to flee. Father Yah, thank you for your light and for your love and for your Son. Thank you for all the wonderful things that you are doing in us and through us. Thank you for a faith that is participatory. We love you and we praise you in Yeshua's name. Amen. All right, y'all. I need to go select my Passover ram and dig many holes to plant plants with my wife and put up chicken wire on the chicken coop, and then have a coaching call, and then do business development, and then eat somewhere in there, plus talk to all my teams. You guys, go do you stuff. Be the light. Make Dad proud. I'll see you when I see you. Shalom.